Cool. So what we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna be going over these Final Fantasy spoilers. New Magic set. Final Fantasy is gonna be in standard. I know it's crazy. And we gotta just like get used to it. We gotta kind of just absorb this and be like, you know what, this is Magic. There's a multiverse, and who's to say that these universes don't exist inside of Magic? Why wouldn't we have cards about them? So the first card that I want to go into is Jumbo Cactuar. You've seen a lot of this card online. There's been a lot of YouTube shorts, a lot of outrage, just because of how like incredibly okay it is. There's ways you can break this card for sure. It's 7 mana for a 1/7 plant. 10,000 needles. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets plus 9,999 until end of turn. Excuse me. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to fling it. It allows you to sacrifice it, and you don't really want to like greater. You don't want to greater good this. You don't want to draw cards equal to its power because you'll deck yourself. However, if you have trample, if you have lifelink, if you have evasion, if you have any way to like pump something else's power, lead the Stampede's a great example. Cards like that where you do something equal to the amount of power that you have. Like let's say you have there's a 5 mana sorcery where you search for a number of basic lands equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So there's a billion ways you can break this in Commander. It's going to be really cool to see how people cheat it in and give it haste and maybe give it trample too. But yeah, super excited about Jumbo Cactuar. That looks like a brew. Definitely. I'm a brewer, and so I look at Jumbo Cactuar and I'm like, yes, we're going to do some spicy, crazy things with this card. Second card I want to talk about is actually this Chocobo. I really didn't make a short about this Chocobo. I kind of went over it because it was an uncommon. I didn't really read it. But as is the norm now for Magic the Gathering, these 1-drops just keep getting better and better. 1 green mana for no 1 bird. Landfall, whenever a land ETBs, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So if you remember, right now we have a very strong +1/+1 synergy right now theme going. We have Innkeeper's Talent. We have the Hydra that landfall doubles the counters on it. There's a couple cards that just for really good rates put counters on things. We have Snakeskin Veil in the format. So there's a lot of different ways where we can potentially use these +1/+1 counters, or you can just play it fairly, right? I'm thinking like you play this on 1 as an 0/1, and then on 2 you go like, let's say just an Evolving Wilds, right? You go Evolving Wilds, sack the Evolving Wilds, you have a 2/3 flyer on turn 2. And then, like, if you have like ramp shenanigans, right, you just keep throwing lands into play, then the Chocobo gets so big that they can't really stop it. Now, the Cloud and the Sephiroth, I don't really want to get people super excited about because I know these can't possibly be like the main sets, Cloud and Sephiroth. What this looks like to me is a dual deck. 1000%. These are characters that are literally facing each other, and I guarantee you the art will be like them facing each other like they are right now, but inside of a dual deck or a starter deck, perhaps. So let's go over Cloud first, right? Just real quick. 5 mana 4/4 legend. During your turn, as long as it's equipped, it has double strike and indestructible. Equip abilities you activate the target cloud, cost 2 less to activate. So he's going to allow you to just equip most of your stuff for free. Some of your stuff might have to be paid for 1, but those will be the ones that really are, payoffs. There's not a lot of equipments that you play in EDH that are over 2 equip costs, right? Like it's basically just the swords, and then like all the other like super cheap equipment are 1 or less to equip. And that's on purpose because you usually can't pay 3 mana. You can't take a whole turn off to equip something, Sephiroth is 6 mana for a 4/4 with vigilance. When it enters creatures your opponent's control, get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1 counter on Sephiroth. So what this reminds me of is this is just another form of Massacre Worm. We have Massacre Worm in Standard right now. Came out of Foundations, which is the bane of Goblin's existence. If my opponent plays a Massacre Worm, actually, funny story, at the RCQ played up against somebody who was cheating a Massacre Worm into play, and then, or I should say reanimating it. It was really, really close. So Sephiroth, Looks like Massacre Worm, slightly different. It's going to be an interesting legend if people choose to go that way. Now, side quest. This is an interesting card because it shows that we have lands that you have to go through a little bit of a hoop to unlock first. This reminds me a lot of Search for Escanta style effects where we kind of just have to do something. Once we do something, then it flips. So it's 3 mana enchantment. Beginning your upkeep, you look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or a creature, you may reveal and put it in your hand. If you put a card in your hand this way, create a food token and transform this enchantment. So it transforms over into Cooker's Campsite, which is a land that taps for a white. 3 mana tap, sack an artifact. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So not anything like super, super crazy, but I'm thinking, if you pay 3 mana, you look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature, you just grab it. And then you immediately flip it into a land and it ramps you, right? It doesn't enter tapped. It just enters. If you don't, right, you know what's on top of your library, and then it is what it is, right? Maybe you use that information somehow. But this card seems exactly okay. It's probably not playable, but there could be a deck where that wants to put +1/+1 counters on all their stuff, where they jam this in there for sure. Terra, Herald of Hope, is a commander card, so we're not really going to talk about it too much. We're still going to go over it. 3 mana for a 3/3, legendary creature, human, wizard, warrior. Trance. Beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2. Terra gains flying until end of turn. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 colorless. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So, kind of like Kali of the Vast, except it has to deal damage, and you have to pay 2, and it's creature 3 or less instead of angel, demon, or dragon. And it's not tapped and attacking, it's just tapped. So that's interesting. Going to be interesting in EDH. Not really, definitely not Legacy or Vintage playable. So I'm just going to move on. This card is going to be insane. Emmet Selch Unsundered is 3 mana for a 2/4 Elder Wizard. It's got Vigilance. When it enters or attacks, you draw and then discard. Beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Emmet Selch. So, ETB or attack, draw, then discard. So this reminds me of there was a 3 mana 1/3 with Death Touch and Lifelink that when it entered or attacked, you would draw, then discard. This reminds me a lot of that card, and I played that card. This also so it has Vigilance. When it enters, you get the ability. So if it dies, you don't care. If you get to attack, you get to do it again. And if you ever get to flip it over, it's a 3 mana 6/6 with Vigilance that allows you to have Yawgmoth or Yawg's Will on the card. And then it just says whenever a card or token be put in your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So it's got the Yawg's Will text. But they put Yawg's Will on the back of a 3-drop. Right? You have to have it survive 1 turn cycle. So you don't play it until turn 5. You hold up your counterspell. You pass it through the turn. Your opponent deploys their board, and then they use their last mana to kill your thing. You're like, actually no. Then you go back to your turn. Upkeep trigger. As long as you have 14 in your graveyard, which is very easy for graveyard decks, it comes back as a Yawg's Will, and then you just get to spend all your mana on your turn, Yawg's Willing your stuff back. This is amazing. This is a card that I think is going to be extremely busted in older formats, like Vintage, Legacy, probably Modern. And it's going to be just insanely busted in Standard and Pioneer too. So let's move on to Cloud. This is another commander card, so we're not really going to talk about it too much. 5 mana 4/4 haste. When Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it. Whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, you make 2 treasure tokens. So yeah, just a Naya equipment matters commander. It's got haste. It can immediately equip something, so it immediately gets the value. It's just so unflavored. Jumping in, immediately attacking things, hacking through your opponents. We also have the returns of some special anime alter arts, but like Ancient Copper Dragon and Yukiro. but we're going to be talking about the new cards today. Titus, Yuna's Guardian, is 3 mana for a 3/3. Beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. Okay, so you can kind of like, there was a 1 mana card from RTR that allowed you to move a counter from one thing to another. So it's kind of like that, but on combat. And then Cheer, whenever one more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. So that's pretty good. So as a 3 mana 3/3, it allows you to move your counters around to where you need them to be. And then if your stuff with counters on them deal damage to your opponents, then you just get to draw a card and proliferate, building your team, building more resources. I like that card a lot. Again, commander only, not really going to be played in any format but commander. Stiltzakin, Mogul Merchant, is 1 mana for a 1/2 with lifelink. It's a legend. 2 tap, target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, you draw a card. So you're just trying to figure out a way to give your opponent something that's going to kill them, probably like an Archfiend to the draw, so it's about to tick down. You know, I'm sure there's a couple other things in standard, but that's the first thing that I think of is my opponent handing me an Archfiend and then passing, and then in my upkeep I lose. That'd be pretty good. Also, there could be some card in this set that you don't want to have, and so if they give it to you, then you just have to have it. Could be pretty good. Cecil's a card that I hear a lot of people talking about. So Cecil Dark Knight is 1 black mana for a legend. It's a 2/3 with Death Touch. It's got darkness, so whenever it deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life is less than or equal to half your starting life total, untapped Cecil, transform it. Cecil the Redeemed Paladin is the backside. It's a 4/4 with lifelink. Protect. Whenever Cecil attacks, other attacking creatures gain indestructible until end turn. This is my battle, one I must fight alone to atone for my wrongs. This card seems really cool because the upgrade is really easy to get to, right? You just have to attack a couple times or pay life, like using other means to get to 10. As soon as you get to 10, you just get a 4/4 with lifelink. It makes all your other dudes indestructible. Excuse me. I've seen people talk about playing this as their legend. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how it is in EDH, but also in competitive formats. Sin, Sipra's Punishment, is 7 mana for a 7/7. It's a Leviathan avatar, already winning. Flying. Whenever Sin enters it or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. So it's kind of like Capricious Hellraiser in that aspect. Then create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, then you get to repeat this process. So that's good. If you quote-unquote whiff, there's like a built-in, actually the best thing you could probably do is just have a bunch of lands in your graveyard, play it, and then you just bring back all the lands out of your graveyard, right? Well, I guess it doesn't bring them back. It exiles them, and you make token copies, which is kind of the same. Also, you could just have one absolute banger in your graveyard, right? Where as soon as it enters, you win. So you set up a scenario where you have a card in your graveyard and you play your legend, and it literally just reanimates what you need. Now, I think this card is going to be one of the better Sultai legends. I think that we have a lot of really good Sultai legends right now, but Sin might be the best graveyard / mid-range legend that we've ever seen. As long as you're playing all permanents in your deck, this card is going to be insane. Moving from a card that's insane to a card that's much less insane, Garland, Knight of Cornelia, is 2 mana for a 3/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you surveil 1, and you may pay 7 to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield flipped. It comes back as a 5/5 with flying. When Chaos dies, put it in the bottom of its owner's library. Even as you die again and again, I shall return. Yeah, he's got 4 arms. He's got a dragon coming out of his belly. He's got skulls on his knees. He's pretty baller, but I don't think this card's going to be played at all. 7 mana to get a 5/5 back that does nothing. It does have flying, but in modern day, that's not enough. This is the Emmett Setch's original art, the card we're looking at that I think is going to be really good in all the formats. This is my hot take on like the best card out of the format or out of the set. Right off the bat, it's Emmett Setch. That's the one I think is going to be busted. Going from like a really busted card to a really not busted card. Shiva. 5 mana, 4/5. It's a saga enchantment creature saga elemental. Tell me that makes any sense. So got Heavenly Strike. It's got the saga thing, right? When it enters, you get a saga counter. Sacrifices after 3 saga counters. If it doesn't have any counters on it, it dies. Heavenly Strike. Tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. That's 1 and 2. So you kind of just freeze down your opponent's stuff slowly. Then the third mode is draw a card for each tap creature your opponents control. So, like, you know, if you have a sleep style effect, if you have a way to just lock your opponent's creatures down, maybe you play an authority of the consoles, wink, wink. Then all their stuff enters tapped, and then by the time you get to the third one, you maybe have 4 or 5 draws for free. The issue is it's a 5 mana 4/5 that you lose after 2 turns. Because you play it, it goes to 1. You go through your entire second turn, but it goes to 2. As soon as you start your third turn, it dies in your draw step. So you only really get to attack with it once. So the fact that it's a 4/5 body doesn't really impact the board. I guess it could block, right? You could play it to ice something down and block, but I feel like that's not where you want to be for sure. Tonberry. 1 black mana. Salamander Horror. This creature enters tapped with a stun counter on it. Chef's Knife. During your turn, this creature has first strike and death touch. So if you're able to just like take the counter off of it, right? You like keep the counter from being put on it. It's a 1 mana 2/1 with death touch and first strike on your turn. I don't know. This card seems okay. Like very, very safe compared to this other 1-drop that they created. Like compared to the Chocobo, which is 1 mana 0/1 landfall counter. Like I feel like this and like this card, which is like again repeated harmless offering over and over again with an upside for you. Like that's very strong. Or those cards are very strong. This seems very safe. Last card we're going to talk about is Yasholta, the Knight's Blessed. It's a cat warlock, 4 mana for a 2/4. Vigilance. Beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 more life this turn, you get to draw. So it's payoffs for, you know, you can pay life, right? If you pay 4 every turn cycle, like totally fine. You get to draw a card. Now, if you are constantly making your opponents lose life, like through Exhort or through like when they cast a spell, they lose life, right? You're going to constantly be getting your spells back. And then also, if you're just like holding up mana to cast spells, if you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Yasholta deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So it's kind of like a Gary effect. It's like a very, very minuscule Gary effect where you get to go 2 to each of you. That's 6 life for me. And then I gain 2 life. Or no, sorry, 2 to each of you. That's 6. And then I also gain 2 life. You get like in EDH, the swings that Gary gives you especially are like really busted. And this doesn't drain and then gain as much as lost, but still every turn cycle, let's say you have a 3-drop that you can, let's say you have like, you know, a way to cast a 3-drop on each of your opponent's turns, right? By the time that you get back to you, you've already dealt 6 damage and gained 6 life to each opponent. And then you get to go to your turn and you do it, and they've all taken 8 and you've gained 8. Like that seems like a very strong legend. Again, only in Commander, but it seems like a super cool card to brew up. And that's been the Final Fantasy spoilers that we got so far. I kind of just wanted to like run through them, let y'all see what we got, put the video out there. I really appreciate you being here. I'll be back on streaming again later. I'm actually also going to be at the Nerd Rage Gaming store. I'm going to be doing some of the commentary tonight. The Legend May is actually at MagicCon, one of our normal commentators. Usually I'm just the Goblins grinder and I just play the cards. But my buddy Dom Stryker, who also does the commentary with May, Dom asked if I wanted to do some commentary, and so I'll be in the Nerd Rage Gaming booth talking over the Modern matches tonight. So if you're interested in watching some Paper Modern, go to Nerd Rage Gaming on YouTube. I can actually just show you. If we go to YouTube, got YouTube. Jumbo Cactar is all flavor. Yeah, it's so good. That's so cool. Oh, do you play Final Fantasy? Can you, explain what the flavor behind Jumbo Cactar is? I'm sure I could look it up, but I would love to hear it from the source. So if you go to Nerd Rage Gaming on YouTube, and you can see that there's actually here. Look, that's my face. That's my crazy face. So yeah, I'm here. I play here. I don't want to say every week, but I play every Wednesday, and I don't know all these legends. That's Jared. That's Sam. That's my buddy, Brian. That's George. And so yeah, there's a lot of legends who play at this store. There's Dom. There's the guy I'm doing commentary with, and yeah, I've had a super good time playing at this store. There's my buddy Alex, the legend Alex, legend David. Isaac's so good. There's May. May's gonna be the one who I'm filling in on a commentary with. So go to Nerded Gaming. They'll be streaming tonight at 6:30. You could also go on Twitch. Same thing. Nerd Rage Gaming on Twitch, and they're also going to be streaming on Twitch. So um, if you wanna watch some crazy commentary, go jump in there. If not, I'll be back later with the stream, and then maybe later tonight with an EDH stream way after that. But thank you all so much for watching. This has been the Final Fantasy Spoilers, and I hope you have a beautiful day.